Hey guys, it's Spitfire again. Today I'm going to be working on this guy. What this is an old, I don't know, it's probably 20 years old already. It's a Ruger 1022. Pretty standard. There's probably millions of these things out there. Everybody and their grandkid has one. So these are really nice rifles. If you don't have one, if you've never shot one, that's kind of weird because most people have a 22. But anyways, they're really nice 22s. They're durable. They're kind of like the Model 700 of 22s. You can kind of put whatever you want onto them. See, this one I put a barrel. This is when they first started coming out with all the Ruger 1022 parts. I put a stock on it and a barrel. That's about it. And it's been a pretty good shooter. I mean, it's not match grade accuracy, but it's a lot better than what the factory barrel was. I haven't cleaned this thing in quite a while, so what I'm going to do today is strip this thing completely apart. I mean, down to every last nut and screw, and clean this guy out. I'm sure my barrel is probably due for a cleaning. And yeah, I mean, these things are simple, but let's get started. Alrighty, it's been a while since I've taken one of these apart, but if I remember, they're not too terribly difficult. Alright, so like always, when you're doing gun work, and especially if you're doing it for somebody else, you don't want to screw your threads up, or your screws up. So I guess first thing we can do is pop this magazine out. That's not needed. So what we can do here is we can find the right size, and I'm missing a few in this guy for some reason because they're misplaced, but anyways, you want to find the tightest fitting one that you can without, and still be able to get in there. So if you get a tight fitting flathead screwdriver that fits in your screw and you keep pressure on it, it's almost impossible to bung that screw up. That's why Gunsmith spend a couple $100 on a good screwdriver set, because you pretty much need them. So that's one screw holding that whole guy together. That's kind of dismal. And so there's our receiver and our barrel. And so what I think I'm going to do next is I'm going to pop these guys off because I really don't need those. This is my big effing screwdriver. Only because it's a big slot head on that guy. I really don't need these cheap mounts on there at this time. And then next, what we're going to do is we got two screws, one right there, one right there. And those hold that whole barrel assembly on. So we'll see what size they are. Try 5/32. And that's our guy. And these little ball end ones work pretty good because then you can get in there sideways and crank this out. And screw them all the way. Okay. And this guy doesn't really matter which way it goes, if it goes up or down. There really is no up or down for it. But and then our barrel should just pull. You can twist and pull straight out. And I don't know if you can see there, but we got a bunch of gunk in our extractor slot. And I'll take a look down the barrel here. It actually looks pretty good. I mean, 22s, you can seem to shoot them forever and they stay clean. I got a little bit of crap here at the muzzle end, but if you're wondering, this is a Butler Creek. This is a carbon fiber wrapped barrel. So what it basically is, it's not carbon, but it's like composite. I mean, I think it was supposed to look like carbon at one time, but stainless steel ends, muzzle, and then there's a stainless steel tube in there, and this barrel weighs like literally like 1.5 pounds. It doesn't weigh hardly anything. So we'll set that guy off and we'll clean that later. So here's our receiver. So what I'm going to do is 1, 2, 3 pins here. We'll pop those guys out and pop this whole trigger assembly out. There's pin 1. And sometimes Sometimes these matter which way they push them out, but this one doesn't. It's nice to have a punch. They're always handy, especially if you do a lot of gun stuff. So there's our screws. There's our trigger assembly, and not much to it. If you're doing if you're just replacing the trigger, I mean, you wouldn't even have to take the barrel off, but I'm doing that today. So alright, so we got a receiver, and to get this guy out, what you do is pull that back, and there's a little notch in there. Hopefully my camera is in focus, but it usually isn't. If you can see right here, there's a little notch, and that'll ride up on here. And what that should do is that should allow you to pull your bolt from the bolt face side, pull that guy out. And I did clean this thing a couple years ago, so it's not horribly dirty, but most of these things, when I take them apart, they're full of all sorts of good nasty stuff. So anyways, we're left with that. We just pull that guy out, and there's our spring and our rod, and there we go. So there's your stripped receiver, and other than your base, which I'm not going to take the base off because there's really no need for it. Other than that, I mean, if you really want to clean this guy, the best thing to do with these, if you want to clean them good and not spend a lot of time on them, is ultrasonic cleaner. And we're going to start on our bolt now here. So here's my handy little drift block I made in another video. So what we do here is we put it over our hole, find a right size awl and a right size hammer, drive that pin out of there, and then be sure you catch the firing pin when it comes flying back at you. Cause so what we got going on here is that hole in the firing pin. That's what holds that guy on. So that's just your firing pin retainer. And then deep inside here, if you got a little awl or something, and ever so carefully pull your spring out. There's a little spring inside there. You don't want to lose that guy. Put that in there. So there is a little pin inside here, but it's a blind hole. So there's really, I mean, you could get it out of there, but there's really no need to ever take it out. This guy, this pin, I mean, we can leave it in there part of the way. No reason to take that out. It just makes it easier to get it back in there now. So what we got going on here is this extractor. This is pretty much like most 22 extractors are. It's a plunger with a spring. So what we do is we get in there with that, our little awl, and pull it back. And it's a little tricky here, so give me a second. Pull it back past that little circle part there. And alright, so what I got here is my ever so expensive denture cleaner. I do not have dentures, but I got this guy at a thrift store for like $2 or $3, and it's basically the exact same thing as like those Hornady case cleaners, or all it is a sonic cleaner. So the only downside to this guy is this tank is about 6 inches long and then 2.5, 3 inches wide. So just the little parts, but all I got in there right now is, well, I got my bolt in there and hot water and dish soap. You could put some degreaser, cleaner, whatever you want to put in there, but all I use this thing for is my wife cleans her jewelry and I clean my watch and whatever. We just clean crap around the house that is easy to clean with these things. So or glasses, but they work good for parts too. Look at that. You probably can't see too well in there, but I got a bunch of crap building up on the bottom there already, and front of my bolt face is starting to look better, so I'll let that run for I don't know how long. It's got a 15-minute time, so do 15 minutes and probably wipe the excess off, and I'll probably run all these parts through there and Might as well throw a firing pin and throw this guy in there, our bolt spring. That'll work good. And any other little parts you might want to throw in there. So I can already see that spring stuff is just flying off of there, so that's good. But while that's cooking, we'll continue with our rest of this stuff here. I left off here a minute ago and I was taking my extractor out, and I already got it out, but I'll throw that in there. When I go to put it back together, I'll show you guys what I did there. I'm just going to throw every little bit and piece I got into my cleaner here. So, a trigger group. You guys want to take that guy apart? Why not? First thing I'm going to do here is pop this pin out. And that's going to, if you can see inside there, there's a spring that pops up when you pull that out. And you yank that out. Drop our hammer. Pop this guy out. That should just pop out. Okay, so we'll pop this guy out. And it's going to release that, so you can pull those parts out. And there's little washers on the side here. Try to keep that all together. And then we can pull our spring out, our firing pin spring, and that's held back by a retainer. We'll pull this guy out. And it's kind of gummed up, so it might be kind of tricky to get out of there. Here's our little guide. Okay, now what do we got? Now we got a trigger. So let's pop that guy out. Trigger pin. And you want to hold back. You got a spring inside there holding that trigger. So we just want to, first off, we'll hold that, and we'll get our little trigger spring out here. Trigger spring. And then our trigger should just pop right out of there. There's our sear. Second part of our sear. So this guy goes down like that. For reference. And if you want to pop this last guy out. There we go, there's our trigger. So there's all your trigger taken apart. All of our parts here. And then our trigger housing. If you want to take this guy out, you can. We already popped that spring holding that guy together, so there's that. So if you want to get your safety out, which you don't, most people don't really need to, so there's a little hole right in the back side. This is the back side of our thing, and if you can get a little pointy object down in there, or a punch, you can push that retainer pin down and slide that safety out, and then before you slide it out, you're going to ever so gently, I'm going to get my little retainer here so I don't lose it. I don't know, it's not a bunch of tension in there, but there we go. So there's our little retention plunger. And that's at the bottom side. See, now you can see the hole that retentions that guy in there. And then this is what you can see. There's a little camming surface there. You probably can't because the camera sucks, but there's little camming surfaces, and this is what rides over that spring. So here we go, completely stripped down trigger housing for the 1022. Alright, so round two, I'm adding simple green to this guy. I had good luck with it in the past. So this worked okay, but not quite the way I wanted it to. So
Alright, so now it's time to clean your barrel. So what ends up happening with these guys is, I'm gonna get a new camera here, guys, so hang tight with me. But if you can see, this area right in here, see, I'm starting to scratch some of that off. That gets clogged up with dirt and debris and stuff, and it ends up, your bolt won't always drive home, so then you can't fire on that. And then in here, sorry, you get all this crud in your extractor. Groove. And then your extractor might not work if you got too much stuff in there. Then what you do is you just clean all that stuff out, and then I'm gonna run a brush through there, a 22 caliber brush, and scrub it 2-3 times, and then I'll run a few patches through there and see how it looks, and hopefully we got her cleaned up pretty good. This thing isn't it isn't that dirty, but there's still a little gunk in there, and we'll clean it up and get it looking like brand spanking new. Alright, so I'm going to do something here that I wasn't really planning on doing originally, but being that if you watched my video so far, up to this point, I'm going to teach you something. Try and teach something. So I got done washing this bolt out. Washing it out. I mean, running it through the sonic cleaner. And it actually looks really nice. It looks a lot better than it did before. It's nice and clean. I got a few little spots there that I just need to wipe off with a paper towel, but I was thinking about this thing. And so these Ruger 1022s are pretty sweet little guns, but I'm always out to get a little more out of these, out of any gun I have. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try and polish this guy out. Get this out of here first. And then, don't forget I have it there. So this guy has got some riding surfaces here. So when you do sonic cleaning too, sometimes everything doesn't just fall off. Sometimes you gotta wipe it off. But it should break everything loose. There are probably going to be a few nooks and crannies here where your cleaner might not, if it's really caked up in there, like I had just a little tiny bit there. Sorry if you can't see, but a little tiny bit. So you have a bolt, and it does slide really good in there, but I think I might want to polish mine up. First off, I want to polish this up because I think it'll look cool. Just have it nice and shiny. And then second off, we'll polish the some of the surface here, so maybe it'll operate a little better. So in your, if you don't know what surfaces to polish, you can look. Sometimes you can see it on the bolt. These are pretty hard bolts, so I don't know if you're going to see much on there. I can see a little bit right at the top here, right at the top here, up here. And then when we look down inside our receiver, you can see 2 streaks there on the top side of the receiver. And then also, this edge here, it rides along there, on the side here. And then we can put it in there and take a look. And our side to side, I mean, not a lot side to side. What ends up holding that thing in place is that spring in our charger handle. So I don't have a big buffer here today. So what we're going to use is everybody's favorite tool, a Dremel. And pick it up a little with polishing compound. I'm just going to go on right over my surfaces. So we got it buffed a little bit, and I don't know if you can tell. I think you should be able to. The side I did is quite a bit shinier, so it's been buffed out. I'll probably do a little more on it, just for the hell of it, and then I'm going to do the side here. That's the main part that I was thinking about doing. So I'll get it buffed up, and I'll show you how it ended up. Alright, so I got it all polished up, and if you can see, hopefully, our rails here are quite a bit shinier than the rest of it. And then my bolt side, I got some finger smudges there, but that shined up pretty good too. It's almost, well, it is a mirror finish, but I mean, I didn't, if you wanted this perfectly smooth and flat to look like a mirror, you'd have to get a flat file or something in some, I don't know, 600 grit or so, and sand out some of these little, I got some nicks and stuff in there from the factory, but I mean, from where it came from, this is pretty good. And where's my receiver? Let's stick it in there and try it out. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's any, I don't really have anything to base it off of, but it doesn't take much to move it in there. Glides nice and smooth. And then also one thing I did that I didn't mention. So here's our charging handle, and on the top side of the bolt here there's a little spot where it rides too, so I polished that up a little bit too. So all we got to do now is, I mean, I got it all cleaned up. I still got some trigger parts running there in the cleaner, but that's it. I mean, you put it together in the reverse operation and it came apart, and there's not much to it. So that's cleaning a Ruger 1022. One thing I want to mention here is that if you have a gunsmith and you're paying him more than 20 bucks to clean your gun, this is how they should be cleaning it. Some guys charge, you know, 50, 60, 70 bucks to do a thorough cleaning on a rifle, and this is a thorough cleaning. This is taking every part of the gun apart, checking it, cleaning it, making sure it's in functioning order, and making sure that all the pieces are cleaned off and not full of gunk. But the purpose of a factory, or not a factory, but a thorough cleaning like this is to try and get the gun back to like it would have been from the factory, minus the normal wear and tear on a gun. When I say normal wear and tear, I mean like, you know, the bolt's going to lap into the receiver a little bit, and you know, you might have a little bit of normal wear that happens with any gun. But if you can get all the dirt and powder and residue and whatever else out of your gun, it should function perfectly. A lot of guys bring, especially these 22s and a lot of semi-automatic centerfire rifles in, they complain that, like for example a 1022, they'll bring it in and it doesn't fire. Pull the trigger, it goes click, doesn't fire. Doesn't matter what type of ammo I use, but it doesn't work. Well, when was the last time you cleaned it? Well, I cleaned it last week. Okay, when was the last time you did a thorough cleaning on it? Well, never. So, in that case, usually what happens is you take these things apart, and these bolts are usually caked full of crud around the outside of the bolt face here. So the bolt, the shell might not sit up tight against the bolt face. And alongside in the bolt here too, a lot of crap cakes up on the surface that bears down on the bolt, on the back side of the barrel. So anybody that's ever taken one of these apart and cleaned them kind of knows what I'm talking about. They just, and 22s are bad for it because nobody ever cleans them, but they just get full of gunk and they don't work, and it's super easy to fix these things, but you know, a lot of people just don't know better. So if you're bringing this to a gunsmith and it doesn't work, and they're going to clean it for you, if you're going to pay 50, 60, 70 bucks to have them clean your gun, like I said, they better be doing this. And you can ask them, what are you going to do to clean it? And if you do get it back, you can usually tell. An easy way to check, maybe not so easy, but I mean, first off, they might function better. Second off, when you're looking in your receiver here, you can look down inside on the back side of the barrel, up inside the receiver here. If there's any like gobs of gunk in there, there shouldn't be, and they might have just screwed you out of some money for cleaning your gun. Most gunsmiths are pretty good about it. If they say they're going to take your gun apart and clean it, they're going to do it. About the only thing on this one that I wouldn't have had to have necessarily done is take that trigger apart. But I've never taken the trigger apart on this gun because I've had this for, I don't know, 20 years. And I've never taken the trigger apart, so I figured, well, it's about time. Got my barrel here, and I was looking at this thing, and then I've been doing some gunsmithing stuff for a few years. I've relined a few 22 barrels, and this is a Butler Creek barrel that you buy from as an aftermarket barrel. And I got to look at this thing a little more, and all it is they got, when they made this barrel, it must have been just a chunk of stainless steel and a little piece of stainless steel about that long. They injection molded it, that steel, into the barrel, and then they lined it. You can't see it, but they lined it with a 22 barrel liner. I was looking at this closely, and I saw there was a little ring around the muzzle here, right where they put that liner in. So if I knew that now, I would never buy one, because I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose of spending. I think this thing was like 150 bucks at the time when I bought it, but that was, 20 years ago. So what I'm going to do here is, the back side of this chamber has got a little chamfer on it, and I'll show you when I'm done here, but I'm just going to grab my handy little stick. This is a stick. I use this for a few other things, and it's going to work great for this. I just know it. So now we got our wrapping paper. I think this is 600 or 400 grit on the end of our stick, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to move my carriage out of the way here. All I'm going to do is come in here and just touch the edge of that chamfer, because it's kind of rough, so I'm going to smooth it off a little bit. For some reason it doesn't seem like it's running as fast as it should be. I'm not looking to take any material off here, I'm just kind of smoothing it off. And if you got any feeding issues, this might help with that too. I got a pretty generous chamfer here. As I'm here, I might as well clean off the back side of the barrel. There we go, now I'll take it off and check her out. And I didn't have this clamped down with hardly any pressure, so it shouldn't have left any marks. So here I cleaned up the back of this barrel, and as you can see, there's a bunch of little pits and stuff here. And what that is from is from this bolt slamming down on this barrel and having gunk and stuff in there, and it ends up pitting that barrel a little bit. As you can see, the back where the bolt hasn't been connecting is where the firing pin goes. That looks real good. Everywhere else here is pretty much untouched. Extractor looks good. Then I polished up my my little chamfer there. So hopefully I shouldn't have any. I haven't had any feeding issues, but I won't have any more. Then I don't know if you guys can see it, but here's where that barrel liner is. And that's what happens if you have your gun redone. There's a piloted drill bit that basically drills that old rifling out, and then they glue or solder those guys in. I've done a few of them. It's not the funnest job, but it's not too bad. It's pretty simple. So they put the new liner in, cut the ends off, flush with the back of the bore, chamber it, cut your extractor groove, and then you got basically a new 22. The only downside is it cost, I don't know, a couple $100 to have that done, because it's not takes work and it takes time is the main thing. So there's our barrels been cleaned up, and now all that's left to do is put her back together. Alright, so like I was saying before, if you're paying your gunsmith to do this, you better do a good job on it. And I mean, that's what they get paid for, is to pull that thing apart and make it work like it's brand new. So pretty good stuff. If you stuck with me this long, I appreciate it. It's a lot of info that I tried to cram into a little bit of time. I try to cut out as much crap as I can to keep you guys watching is always the main goal. Put out good content. So if you got any questions, please feel free to ask, comment, like, subscribe, and refer this to somebody else if you think they might be handy for them. Until next time, take care, shoot a lot, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.